It was the summer of 2017, I was a junior in high school. I had multiple groups of friends that I would float around in. There was this one group which was comprised of 4 people. This group was particularly into urban exploration and photography. I expressed some interest in accompanying them on their next adventure, and they suggested that we visit the abandoned factory that was in our town. Once the lifeline of our small medium town, this factory had suffered multiple fires, until it was eventually abandoned, left as a 20-story eyesore. However, it was unable to be destroyed, due to the amount of asbestos that would be released into the air. This building started attracting groups of urban explorers from all over. Obviously, with no maintenance and structural damage after the fire, there were some pretty serious injuries on the property. The city ended up having to hire security to keep out the explorers. However, due to the immense size of the premises, a few people inevitably still managed to sneak in. My group was fairly experienced, and they knew how to evade the patrols effectively. We embarked on our adventure a little after midnight. We parked about half a mile from the factory and snuck in through a hole in the fence, cut by past explorers. We followed a ditch, kind of like a trench, through the big open field that led to the factory. We narrowly missed a spotlight scanning the field, having to crouch to hide our silhouette completely in the shallow ditch. After some walking, we finally made it to the building. We made our entry through a section of wall that collapsed. Every little piece of rubble that was disturbed by us would send out clouds of asbestos-laced dust. I seemed to be the only one that cared, so I kept that thought to myself and tried to enjoy the experience. We had red-tinted flashlights, that were supposed to be harder to see from far away. We used them to illuminate our path as we wandered deeper and deeper into the concrete jungle. Abandoned machinery, graffiti, and rubble littered the ground. My friends were quick to begin taking photos of the surroundings. They eventually started splitting up unintentionally. I made sure to be near at least one other person who could lead me out if we had to run. We got very split up at one point. It was just myself and a girl named Mary, on one of the higher floors. We climbed out of a broken window onto a roof. It was not quite at the top but very high off the ground, about 18 stories up. She pulled out a can of spray paint and let me tag my initials onto a wall, and we took turns doing a small photo shoot of each other. We soon became aware of another explorer group that also was present at that time, as we saw flashlights with white light through the windows from our high vantage point. This ended up giving us away, as we heard a security truck come up the road. They started shining a powerful spotlight through the windows. The relative peace was broken by dozens of feet shuffling on the dusty concrete floors, as the other group scrambled to make their escape. Mary and I had a chuckle as we listened to the panicked footsteps below us. I would have panicked and ran myself, but Mary knew better and said that the guards never entered the building, and would be distracted chasing all the runners. This meant that we could just stroll out while they were going after the runners. After a few minutes, the truck roared off, chasing away the other explorers. That was when Mary and I finally started making our way down carefully through the rubble. We made it down to the 13th floor, but we had to stop our descent there. During the escape, one of the groups must have broke the sketchy rusted-out metal staircase that we took to get up, so we had to find another way down. It was at this point that we checked our phones for any updates on our group, and with no texts, we figured that they had made the dash to the exit during the initial panic. They were probably still running. Our group had multiple contingencies for exploring and would not leave anyone behind, so we were not concerned about that. While we were wandering around looking for a safe way down, we noticed a red glow in one of the rooms. Concerned it was one of us in there, with our red-tinted flashlights, possibly hurt, we quickly moved towards the room to investigate. As we turned the corner to where the light was coming from, I saw something that I will never forget. Every inch of the walls in that room was covered with demonic graffiti and writings. There was also satanic paraphernalia littered on the ground, ranging from voodoo dolls, to Ouija boards, to lit candles, to pentagrams. I looked to Mary and she was just as horrified, with her hand covering her mouth. We also could not determine what the source of the red light was, it just seemed to illuminate the room very weakly from an unknown location. The fact that this room was on the 13th floor made it even creepier. Whoever did this might have still been lurking in the building. We both knew that we had to leave quickly. However, we did not want to lose each other or risk getting hurt, so we decided not to run. As we exited, I felt my foot hit something soft and it skidded across the floor. Both of our flashlights illuminated the object, and a cold chill racked down my entire body. A decapitated goat head laid on the floor. Mary held my hand as I led the way, deciding to go back and take our chances with a pretty sketchy-looking staircase that we had passed earlier. I offered to go first to test if it would hold my weight, as I was much bigger than Mary. The second to last step fell under my weight, and I strained my foot from the unexpected drop. As I removed my leg from what used to be a step, I got a cut on the sharp metal left behind, but I hardly even felt any pain at the time. Mary followed me down, carefully testing her weight on each step before committing to it. After getting off the 13th floor, I felt a little better, but the fear was still very present, especially with the long ways to go to the exit. I hobbled ahead of Mary, holding hands again to avoid separating, but the way became a bit clearer now, as we found the path we came up. We were at about the 4th floor when we began hearing shuffling and footsteps above us where we just were, a couple floors up. This absolutely terrified us, and it took everything in me to not break into a full sprint. As we got closer and closer to the exit, the footsteps got closer and closer to us, until they were on the floor directly above us. We were fast walking as quick as we could. As soon as we cleared the collapsed wall that led us outside, we let go of our hands and sprinted towards the car. Luckily, security was not around to give us problems, as they were likely still busy chasing any of the first runners. Even with the pain in my leg, I made it through the hole in the fence first. I waited the couple seconds Mary took to get through. As I waited, I glanced at the factory and saw a dozen tall figures standing on the roof that we were just on a few minutes ago. Mary ducked through the hole and looked at me, following my gaze to the shadows near the roof. She became visibly disturbed. They weren't moving, they weren't showing any body language to suggest they were interacting with each other, they were just standing there, just staring down at us. I quickly grabbed Mary's hand and resumed our fast walk toward the car. We got to the car to the greetings of all our excited friends, still pumped with adrenaline, after running and giddily sharing funny personal accounts of what happened to them. Almost immediately, they started asking us about how we got out. We told them about everything. Of course, they didn't believe a word we said and laughed it off. They instead suggested we took a little extra time to go do our own things together. After some back and forth, they tried to get us to go back with them and show them the room, but Mary and I made it clear that there was no way in hell that we were going back there, blaming part of it on my ankle. In the end, urban exploring never caught on for me. I didn't feel comfortable being in abandoned buildings anymore, especially after my first experience. Mary continued to explore, but she refused to go back to the factory ever again. We later got a chance to describe the event in more detail to our other friends. They decided to return to the building to try to find any evidence of what happened. However, they were never able to find anything, despite multiple attempts. I grew apart from that group over the years, slowly drifting into my own group. However, I still occasionally talk to Mary about whatever happened to us on that night. Apparently, our story has spread around as an urban legend. The story goes that if you are on the 13th floor of the building, you might encounter the so-called Red Room. If you do see it, you must get out of the building as soon as possible. It became a popular task for explorers to attempt to find the room. As far as we know, nobody has been able to find it after us. However, there was an incident that happened recently. One night, a 23-year-old died after plunging from the roof of the old factory, the exact same roof that I was on. He had entered the building with a group of his friends that night, but his friends all escaped after security had become aware of their presence inside. He hid in the building, alone, as the security guards chased after his friends. The guards only found him dead when they returned. A police captain has stated, "The factory is apparently a draw for younger people in town. We continually have problems keeping them out of the building because they believe it's haunted, and they want to get inside."